No. Now, everyone, please say hello to Venerable Sir.
Hello, Bear.
Hello, Venerable Sir.
Nice. Hello, everybody. Seems like some more students are still coming. No problem. So let's sit in a comfortable meditation posture. Make sure your back is erect, side cast down, legs, hands, and face are visible in the camera. And we can make the first determination in our minds voicelessly. From now on, for 12 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. From now on, for 12 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. From now on, for 12 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. And with that determination, we can gently, lovingly notice the flat piece of flesh at the top of the head. We allow it to be heavy. And changing. We continue into the forehead, eyes, nose, lips, chin, cheeks, ears, back of the head, we allow all of the muscles and flesh throughout the head to be heavy and changing. We continue to the neck, shoulders, arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, palms, fingers, tips of fingers, chest, abdomen, back, We allow all of the muscles and flesh throughout the upper part of the body to be heavy and changing. We continue to the buttocks, thighs, knees, calves, heels, soles, toes, tips of toes, we allow all of the muscles and flesh throughout the body to be heavy and changing. Now, as we give the body the freedom to be the way it is, we ourselves enjoy freedom from worry about the body. Let's enjoy this freedom. Let's enjoy this peace. Now let's share our peace with other living beings. You can start in our room. We don't expect, we don't force, just allow, permit. May all beings in this room be in peace. May all beings in this building be in peace. May all beings in this city or village be in peace. May all beings in this country be in peace. May all beings on this continent be in peace. May all beings on this planet be in peace. May all beings, including me, be in peace. Now, because the time for this sitting is finished, let's make the last determination in our minds voicelessly. From now on, I will always be calm. From now on, I will always be calm. From now on, I will always be calm. And with that determination, we can slowly, mindfully change the way of our sitting. And when we have changed the way of our sitting, let's take one more minute to enjoy the peace we gained in meditation. Very well. So I would like to ask everybody to come close to your camera, and we will ask you, how many times did you meditate last 7 days? Alright, that looks like a very good score. So we get almost everybody here meditated at least 3 or 4 times the last 7 days. That's great. So I think we are pretty good. I think we will not get much better than that. And I think by this time, those of you who wanted have already got the habit of meditating every day. So we will not be asking you this question anymore. All right, or at least I don't have to plan. I may forget sometimes, so then we will ask you. But for the time being, I think this was more than enough. And the aim is that now it's in your hands. It was always in your hands, but now it's even more, because now nobody will be asking you, or at least not me, whether you meditated every day or not. Okay? If you have any problem in your meditation or something doesn't work, you can ask me either directly, send me an email to monksarana@gmail.com. If you didn't know that before, I'm a meditation teacher, so I meet many people who have difficulties with meditation, and there's a high chance that I can answer your question and help you progress fast and be successful. But you will have to contact me for that. Then what's next? Let's look at your homework. So when did you do your homework? Okay, that also looks pretty good. Let me see, what do we still have? We have their postscript and final thoughts. we will not be looking at that anymore. Thank you very much. That's pretty good. Half of you was able to do it within a few days from our meeting. I'm fine with that. Now, we have finished that book, therefore. Those of you who want to read Postscript Final Thoughts, you can. Those of you who have read it, amazing. Those of you who don't want to read, don't have to read, because as you can see, it's a postscript. It's not really the main part of the book. So we have finished that book, and now what shall we do? So now we will be looking at the lectures. We were looking at half lecture last week. Now today we will be looking at the remaining lecture, and we will be discussing suicide and how do you call that? What should we call it? We will be just calling it cybersecurity, all right? But it involves everything that's online, and that could be a problem. So these are two things that we will be looking at these days, and hopefully most of you or all of you will be able to get the book, The Buddha in your backpack, so that we can look at that before the year, this academic year will finish. So this course year finishes in February. So we still have a lot of time. We still have October, November, December, January, and a little bit of February. So we are a little bit over one half. So we still have plenty of time, but there is a lot of things that I have ready for you, so we can make use of the time. As you probably know me, we do not really respect any kind of holidays. The only time when there is holidays is when I'm on an airplane, or if I'm ill. So we will probably be using every of the remaining weeks up to the possibilities, but not a book for these days. So you will actually not have any homework for the next several years, several weeks, and that is because you will be watching and writing right during the course. So until now you were not usually writing anything during our course, and you were writing in your spare time. Now it will be a little different. You will be writing notes during this course and not outside, because there's nothing, there's probably nothing that I would add to it. My intention is that we watch together those videos, you write down notes, and then we discuss your notes, and that's it. So then let's first look at your last homework from the book, from the last portion of the book. Who will that be? So I would like to ask Tuiha, Peter Au, and Isabella to raise your hand. Peter Au, if you're comfortable, I would like to invite you to read your homework. So if you can raise your Zoom hand, we can see that. Alright, so Peter, if you're comfortable, you would like to refuse. Would you be comfortable, are you refusing to raise your hand, or are you refusing to read your homework? You're not comfortable sharing? Okay, that's totally fine. So, Ngo Tuiha, can you please share, can you please read your homework?
Chapter 17, Beyond Adolescence, page 204. The fact that many kids take a year prior to college makes a lot of sense developmentally. Page 205. The energy and novelty-seeking soul characteristic of this developmental stage are highly adaptive and allow teenagers to explore new domains that could match their skill sets. The adjacent behavior can expose them to risky environments.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. Isabella?
Chapter 17. Beyond adolescence, it's not over yet. Page 279. Many young adults find that their learning skills are much better at this age than when they were in high school. Organizational skills improve, as does the ability to abstract. Judgment, insight, and perspective all improve as a result of more accessible frontal lobes. Page 287. Young adults with mental health issues are at a higher risk of dropping out of college, having unplanned pregnancies, being unemployed, and suffering from drug and alcohol abuse. And yet the drop-off in mental health services from teenage years to young adulthood is drastic.
Thank you very much. Very well. All right, so let's see what I have to share. The age of, page 222, the age of emerging adulthood is an age of exploration and instability. Jeffrey Jensen Arnott says in his book Emerging Adulthood, the winding road from the late teens through the 20s. But today it's also an age of self-involvement. It's true that for the millennial generation, those born between 1980 and 2000, the incidence of narcissistic personality disorder is 3 times what it is for those 65 and older, according to the National Institutes of Health. So, what is a narcissistic personality? So first of all, I would like to suggest that it's very important to avoid diagnosing people unless you are a mental health professional. So do not suggest that people are psychopaths or narcissists, or that they are depressed, or that they have schizophrenia or that kind of thing. Try to avoid that up to the maximum, ideally totally. Because what if you are wrong? All right, if you are wrong, well then the person may be seeking support that is not suitable for that person. Instead, a different support would be suitable. If you happen to be right, that's nice, but then that could actually support others who are not able to be right to also engage in diagnosing. And when you misdiagnose, when you suggest that somebody has a mental illness when they do not have it, well, then that could be a serious problem, right? So we don't want that. What if the other person has more serious problem than you assume? Okay, so you can recommend people to go to see a mental health professional. There is no problem with that, but you should not diagnose anyone. All right, unless you're a licensed professional and you went through the proper procedure, which is quite complicated, that leads to a diagnosis, you should never diagnose anyone. All right. So narcissistic personality is a disorder that you can discover only after certain procedures. It's necessary to go through a certain procedure. The procedure needs to be guided by a mental health professional, somebody who has either master's degree or somebody who has PhD in mental health, okay, in a mental health subject. And then they can say, well, it seems like this person is suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, and then they will provide certain support that is suitable. So we never diagnose. Idiot and dement are also an imbecile and debil. These are words which are actually psychiatric diagnoses. So we should not use these words because we are not mental health professionals. I am studying to become a mental health professional, that's true, but I'm not it yet. I'm not a mental health professional yet, so I should not diagnose. And even if I were a mental health professional already, and I'm not, then I would still have to go through a procedure, such as answering some questionnaire or answering certain tests or going through certain behavioral tests. And then only I could assume that the person may have a certain disorder or not. So being a mental health professional still does not make anyone privileged to diagnose. All right. So it's necessary to be a mental health professional and also go through that procedure with the client. If the person is not a mental health professional or does not go through the procedure with the particular person, they should not diagnose. So narcissistic personality disorder is something that first needs to be diagnosed by a mental health professional following a certain procedure. And after that, when the person is found suffering from narcissistic disorder, we will also know that the person has certain characteristics. These characteristics are described in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And today we have version number 5 available. Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And in this book, diagnostic, which is, by the way, available for free in English. Look at that. It's a big book. It's a big book, thick book with a lot of information. And in this manual, we will get the descriptions, the requirements for diagnosing anybody with any disorder. So let's open it up. So here we have a Diagnostic Statistic Manual. The version I'm using has about 1,000 pages, and we'll be looking at narcissistic personality. Each of these disorders have their code, so when a psychiatrist, psychologist, social worker, or counselor believes that you are having a personality disorder, then they will give you a number. For example, F6081. So they will probably not even tell you that you have narcissistic personality disorder. They will just say, you're wondering whether you are F6081. Okay. Or 669. So now let's look at how this actually looks like. Let me see Searching. Oh, here it is. Okay. So here we get diagnostic criteria. So the diagnostic statistical manual will tell you how many of these criteria, and here we have 9 criteria, how many of these criteria need to be present in the person, in the client, so that you can actually say that they have the narcissistic personality disorder. So here we have that the person needs to have at least 5 out of these 9. Okay, at least 5. So if the person has just 4, it means they do not have narcissistic personality disorder. And if they have 5, they suddenly do have it. Can you see how it doesn't make sense? It doesn't make sense. So many people are very critical about the diagnostic statistic manual and about diagnosing in any sense. But if you ever want to consider diagnosing, and somebody diagnoses you, you check, is that a mental health professional, and did they go with you through a certain procedure? No procedure, no. Just tell them, do not insult me. Alright, so what is it? A pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, need for admiration, and a lack of empathy, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following. So a person who believes that they're super special, very important, very unique, and plus they require admiration and they do not have empathy. They are not able to understand that some people are facing challenges and they're not able to change their ways or manners or suggestions based on the other people's difficulties. And if it starts in early adulthood, which is, I think, starting by like 20 years old, then this would count, then this could be an adept for narcissistic personality disorder. So, first one, has a grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior without real achievements, is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, beauty, and so on, or love, believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people. So the person doesn't like to be in the society of people who are not super special and super wealthy or beautiful or so on. Requires excessive admiration. So the person wants and asks and requests that other people admires the person. Has a sense of entitlement, that is unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with the expectations. So if the person is not ready to accept that other people have their own life and their own difficulties, but wants everybody to follow everything that the person wants, then that's also one of possible marks or possible how to say that, guiding points to see that the person is narcissistic. Is interpersonally exploitative, so takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. Lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. We're already talking about that. is often envious of others and believes that others are envious of him or her. So envious means that the person is jealous that the others are successful and doesn't like it. And he also or she believes that they are envied by others and that others do not wish them success. And shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. That means I am the only one who's right and everybody is wrong. All right, so these 9. So if somebody has altogether 5, 4 is not enough, then we could say that there is a danger they have narcissistic personality disorder, and we may like to ask the person to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, social worker, or a counselor, and see if they also pass these criteria through a questionnaire. So there will be many questions, maybe 20 or 50 or 100, and the person will have to answer all those questions, probably ABCD questions or questions of that kind. And then the mental health professional will say, okay, well, I think maybe you need this kind of support or that kind of support. Mental health professionals usually do not like to say that somebody has a disorder because if they are wrong, then it's a disaster. And even if they do, what if the disorder will somehow disappear tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Then other people will remember, oh, this guy was labeled by a psychiatrist as a narcissist. But they don't know that the disorder has already disappeared in the person. So they will be mocking and blaming and causing troubles to the person, not only when they have the problem, but also when they don't have the problem. So it's totally off. So ideally, we never diagnose. Even the mental health professionals, even after the procedure, still, when they are wise and highly intelligent and ethical, they like to avoid any kind of diagnosing. But again, when there is a risk that the person has this disorder, these questionnaires and diagnosing sometimes help choose a proper support for the person. So then the counselor or psychiatrist and so on can provide the necessary support. So they will be talking with the person about this particular problem and try to resolve it. If the professional sees that the person does not have the problem, well, then they will probably not talk about it. They may probably not spend so much time trying to find a solution for this because there is no evidence that there could be such problem. All right, so that was about narcissistic disorder and other such problems in a very brief way. And now let's continue. Oh, that's what I have read. So what about if I read for you some things I think are important in the final thoughts, but again, you can decide whether you will read it all to yourself or not. So I have marked as important conversations about facts, such as those contained in this book, will help you to avoid confrontations with your teens and prevent getting into oppositional patterns with them. So this is for the parents. The idea is that parents may like to converse and discuss these topics with their children. Now you, as being the teenagers, you can discuss these with your parents and see whether it helps with anything. Your job isn't to stifle them, but rather to help them channel their energies in positive directions. One major way you can facilitate this is by providing a calm and organized environment in which they can grow. Learn what music they listen to, what TV shows and movies they watch, and what books they are reading. You don't need to be your teen's best friend forever, BFF. You just need to know what's going on in his or her life so you can better understand, advise, and set limits. So this book is pretty strict, as you maybe remember, there was a chapter where it was suggested that the parents actually check your phones and that they know exactly what you write about and what you watch there, and that they take your phone if they think it's not helpful for you. That's what this book suggests. Well, you have the advantage that it's you who's reading the book, right? Not your parents. But you may see that there is a big concern, that in the teenage life, these devices may be dangerous or causing unnecessary harm to your success, progress, to your happiness. Okay, anyone has any question about this book? Anything you'd like to say, suggest? Any concerns, warnings? All right, so let's look at the remaining part. Yes, Isabella?
There's probably an answer to this question already, and I just don't remember, but why is it recommended that we read it and not the parents in this class?
I see. So that's not mentioned in the book, that you read it and not your parents. And I don't really remember that I would have suggested that your parents should not read it. But I personally believe that for all of you, it is an advantage if you read it, because then you know yourself what are the thoughts, what are the concerns of your parents and of the adults around you. If the adults and parents read it, well, then they will remember some portion of it. They will probably misunderstand some portion of it. They'll probably exaggerate some portion of it when they tell it to you, or when they start to apply it, when they discuss with you and when they deal with you. You know it directly, what's the concern, what's the difficulty from the adult's point of view, so you can start to make use of these advices without any worry that you would be getting some inaccurate or exaggerated information.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, so let's watch the remaining portion of the lecture. Seems like it's a little complicated to get there. I see, okay. So we saw somewhere in the middle, right? Can somebody please remind me where we finished last time? Yes, Isabella?
We stopped at 8 minutes and 37 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alright, so please everybody make sure you have your notebook with you, notebook and pen. You may like to write the date if you want. Today will be October 7, 2023.
Access is restricted. There are some protective factors too. Warm and supportive relationships with people living in the home or nearby can reduce suicide risk, even among those with depression. And there's some evidence that religious faith or affiliation can help. Here's an interesting observation. Being married is protective against suicide, but only among men, not among women. What these protective factors may have in common is...
So it's a warm relationship, religious faith, and then marriage, but only for men.
that they all help prevent social isolation and help sustain supportive human interactions. Loneliness, especially among those facing life stresses, can be devastating and can erode the resilience we need to overcome our daily struggles. There are some other differences, too, between men and women in terms of suicide risk. Women attempt suicide far more often than men, about 4 times as often. But men die from suicide more commonly than women, by a factor of 3. In large part, this is because men choose more effective methods, using guns more often. However, the rates of completed suicides amongst women are rising quickly, so these differences may be evening out. Domestic violence also plays a disproportionate role in the deaths of women, both by suicide and homicide. I want to focus now on a few specific groups and their unique mental health needs. About 20% of deaths by suicide in the United States occurs among veterans of our armed forces. That's over 7 times the rate of our overall population. Part of this disparity is that many veterans have access to firearms. That, combined with a high rate of depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, along with poor access to mental health services, is a deadly combination for the men and women who protect us. I think we can all agree that we need to do a better job taking care of our veterans. Suicide rates began to rise dramatically after age 75. One contributing factor, again, is depression, which is often undiagnosed and untreated in older people. Other risk factors include the death of a loved one, isolation, and loneliness. Many older people suffer from physical disability and pain, which may erode their independence and ability to enjoy life. Retirement can be a positive life change, but for some people, it can contribute to a sense of a loss of purpose or to feeling that one's become a burden. However, having said all of this, depression is not a normal part of aging, and many studies have documented a high rate of life satisfaction and happiness among older people. In other words, we should not accept loneliness and unhappiness among our older relatives as normal. We also need to give our attention to the other end of the lifespan, to teenagers. Every 17 minutes in the US, a teenager dies by suicide. A 2013 survey found that 30% of teens felt sad or hopeless every day. 14% had planned a method by which they would attempt suicide, and 8% had attempted suicide within the past year. Though learning to deal with disappointment.
So if you want to write that down, you can. So he said, what did he say?
The other end of the lifespan, to teenagers. Every 17 minutes in the US, a teenager dies by suicide. A 2013 survey found that 30% of teens felt sad or hopeless every day. 14% had planned a method by which they would attempt suicide, and 8% had attempted suicide within the past year. Though learning to deal with disappointment is a normal part of adolescence, some teens become overwhelmed and need more of our help. In teenagers especially, suicide is not always a desire to die, but rather a desire to escape or to get away from one's troubles. And most cases of suicidal behavior in teens do not result in death, but it's important not to minimize the significance of a suicidal action.
So the point is that when the adults or older people want to die, they want to die regardless whether they would be happy or unhappy. They just don't want to live. Whereas when many teenagers want to die, they want to die because they're unable to get happiness. In other words, according to his explanation, it seems that most of teenagers who maybe lost to suicide, they actually would not like to commit suicide or would not like to be lost to suicide if they were happy, if they were satisfied. Whereas with the old people, even if they were satisfied, they would like to die, right? Because their idea is that life doesn't make any more sense regardless what it is. It's a very different kind of thinking. So, like for teenagers, this might be a little difficult to understand, but it is possible also to see that life doesn't make sense when it is happy and wealthy and you're loved and supported and everything like that. So then why would somebody want to commit suicide? Because they believe that there is nothing after they live and they feel that this would be peaceful. In Buddhism, we however believe that there is next life, and so in Buddhism the idea of suicide is extremely dangerous, because if you commit suicide, actually in the next life things may be even worse. You may be born as an insect or as a ghost or in hell, and that is always worse than being a human, regardless how much you suffer as a human. So in Buddhism, suicide really doesn't work.
The day afterwards, a teenager may regret the attempt and feel that nothing is wrong. A teenager especially may not understand the potential danger of a method of suicide, so the lethality of their method may not accurately reflect their intention to die. In other words, even if a teen is acting well and didn't need medical treatment after a suicide attempt, any suicidal action needs follow-up with a mental health professional. Common stressors for teens can include rejection by a boyfriend or girlfriend, exams, or graduation or applying for college. These events can be especially risky for vulnerable teens, like those who have suffered from physical or sexual abuse, those with mental illness, or teenagers who are struggling with their sexual orientation. A hostile school or home environment or bullying can further multiply the risk. While most teenagers can bounce back after troubling events, teenagers with depression or poor resilience can experience a high level of anxiety and fear, contributing to poor sleep and interfering with their ability to make good choices about friends and relationships. An especially troubling situation can arise after a first suicide at a school or in a social group, where vulnerable individuals may end up copying that behavior. These so-called suicide clusters are not common, but media and internet portrayals can unintentionally glamorize suicide and lead to more deaths. Parents and teachers also need to be sensitive to the power of social media, where teens can see comments like, go ahead and kill yourself, or who cares? Now, social media forums can also play a positive role in supporting a healthy outlook, allowing teens to interact with friends and learn more about issues that might be on their minds. But for children who are at risk, there's a lot to worry about. So-called cyberbullying is difficult to recognize and prevent, but it's important to monitor the interactions of vulnerable teenagers, both in real life and on their phones and on their computers. Though teenagers deserve respect for their privacy, there are times when parents need to step in and see exactly what their children are doing online. Protection and safety here come ahead of privacy concerns. In this first lecture, I've given you an outline of the scope of the problem, who's at risk for suicide, and what factors in their lives contribute to their risk. You've seen some important commonalities, like the contributions of mental illness, substance use disorders, social connectedness, and bullying. Stressful life changes certainly play a role, especially in someone who's already vulnerable. In the next lecture, you will learn to recognize the warning signs, what to look for in a friend or a loved one that tells you that now is the time to act. You certainly won't be expected to fix the problem yourself, but your words and actions may be the first step needed to help someone recover from the brink of suicide.
Okay, so anyone has any questions, anything you'd like to tell me or ask about the lecture here? So far so good, it seems. If you have any difficulty, any challenge, then you have my email. And now let's go take some rest. It was a pleasure to see everybody. We're not today reciting Ukata because we're a little late. Hopefully we'll recite next week. May you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be successful in everything you do.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Bhante. Everybody, can you please